All right, welcome to Wealth Cartel Legends, where we talk about how hindsight is a motherfucker.
Our mission, guys, is to stop people saying, I wish I had listened, and to help people to capitalise on everyone else's mistakes before making them yourself.
Yeah, in summary, our tagline says it all. Turn our hindsight into your foresight so you don't have to make the same mistakes that we did.
That's a $20 fucking glass of scotch because they wouldn't let us have a shot. We're actually at Bella Vista Hotel, guys, by the way. We should give them a shout out there.
Posted, we do tag them. Yeah, Bella Vista Hotel shout out. We should put in our intro, actually.
Yeah, they're letting us record in here for free. We need to fix the lighting, but other than that, we're pretty good.
So today's guest, we've got the legend himself, Steve the Beaver Menzies. If you don't know, he played footy once upon a time. He's a gun. One of my favourites growing up, and I've been lucky enough to work with him as of recently in the professional and become a friend of his, which has been good.
Wipe your lips, Ryan.
Why?
He's got some cum dripping down here.
Fucking hell. Pay some respect, bro. So, Steve, just a bit of an overview of yourself. You can do your intro in a minute, but we've got here that in total, 531 first grade games, including club and state of origin and for the country. 180 NRL tries just behind Ken Irvine and Billy Slater. Most for a forward. 260 tries in total. Debuted in 1993, finished up in 2013. I put this one here that you're the oldest in Super League history, which is pretty good.
Oldest player.
Is that true? Is it?
Yeah, apparently.
Where'd you get your source from that?
This is Wikipedia.
You can't tell a bloke. You can't tell. He's the first he's heard of it.
Did you know that?
Well,
maybe at the time.
Surely some bloke in the 1900s played like.
Yeah, but there wasn't Super League then, was it?
Super League, yeah, no, fair call.
Just Super League.
Continue, please continue.
And then you played the Nines in 2014 for Manly. You're the 109th Hall of Fame inductee, and now a gun mortgage broker that I have the pleasure of working with my clients. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. What a nice setup here. We got video, do we? Where's the video? Oh, there we are. Hello.
Yeah.
People watching at home.
So this is the Bella Vista Hotel we're at, which is in the intro anyway. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
You can move out this way.
You can actually lock this in, guys, to rent out. So it's free of charge, and we should give Bella Vista a big shout out because they've let us in here to do all our podcasts. So thanks for that, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take them away. Yeah, you might have to move out here, mate. There's nothing like this out on the beaches, is there?
We've got a couple of good RSLs and stuff, but this is RSL's pretty good. Harbour Diggers. We're going to
have to cut them out, Bella Vista.
No, they're in different areas. You'll be right. I might have to write them down later.
Yeah.
I could probably approach them.
Yeah, for pop-ups.
Yeah. That'll be good for me, Steve. I didn't even think of that.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
you're
mate.
welcome.
Appreciate it. Good little plug.
Straight away. So, mate, do you want to give us your intro into yourself? So, who are you?
I'm Steve Menzies. I played professional rugby league for 20 years. Grew up in Manly, born in Manly Hospital. Been a local junior. Had a reasonable career.
That's
an understatement. Come on, man.
Look,
that's very, very humble.
Interesting. People say, look, they come up and they say, congratulations on everything you've done. And to be honest, I played just because I love playing. I still love the game. If I could play tomorrow, I would. They're way too big and fast these days. I wouldn't want to play.
Changed now, isn't it? The athleticism, mate. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a different beast. But I just played because I love playing. I would have played for free, So it's one of those things that people say thanks to me, but without millions of people watching, I don't get paid playing the sport I love. So I always, try and say thank you for being a supporter because that's allowed me to.
The first time I met Steve, right? I just stayed in Steve alone. So between Steve and Heine, who were my two heroes growing up, right? And I'm sitting there with Steve the Beaver Menzies. He goes, yeah, he's intro. Yeah, so I played a little bit of footy once. I was like, no shit. I didn't know who he was.
You know what, bud? As you get a little bit older, man, I've got a couple of mates who are still playing now, like Wade Graham. I went to school with Wado and that. And generally, bro, the people that had that consistent career that are probably going to go down, they're the ones that do humble it more so.
And it's because you loved it. You loved what you did. It was...
Yeah, look, it's a weird, and we'll probably get into it later, it's a weird thing you live in this little bubble, this little ecosystem of rugby league, and you don't realise what the real world is about. And it's, you go out into they're in it literally. They're literally in a bubble these days.
Yeah, now they're in the full bubble, are you?
But you don't realise the real world. You're not getting I have really good traits to come out from professional rugby league and some really poor traits because of the way we're regimented and my time management can be poor. And tell me what to do, tell me how long we're doing it for, all this sort of stuff. I can be on point for that, but go and organise your own day, time manage it. An organisation can be hard because I've never had to do it.
Even as far as nutrition and stuff like that, I suppose it'd get as far as that, because when you're playing, you've got blokes saying, this is the sups you take, this is the food you eat. I think that would be a bad one for me. I would have come out of there 85 ripped, and I would have been like 115 within 3 months out of that.
But even training. So I've trained professionally for 20 years, and now I struggle to organise training because I've got to manage my time. When am I going to do it? It's not part of my job. And then again,
he's one of the busiest men. So anyone, he was supposed to be on last week. You had to reschedule last minute, but like the amount of commitments, every time we meet up in the city, I've got to be here, I've got to be here, I've got to be here. I'm just like, geez.
Do you feel like that's what keeps you going? That sort of, I get like that. I feel like that. I feel like if I'm not committed to something.
But ours is a lot of business related stuff. Steve's is a lot of like almost charity commitments.
We're doing charity stuff. I'm involved in some rugby league ambassador roles. So I'm doing things for that. We're doing a couple of things.
It's not all to benefit
promotions to the NRL. Then we're going to lots of
hanging out with Hiney, and
no, he tries
a minimum as much as possible.
I tell Steve that Hiney's not my hero, and he goes, nah.
Really? What?
I remember watching this little bit on the Matty John show a while ago, and he'd done a segment of you, and he's in a car, and he's got this fake nose on. I remember thinking, fuck, he's a top. He just rips into everyone, and then I'd never seen you do any sort of a segment, and then you come on and started taking the piss out of the boys. I'm thinking, this is a mutual agreement these blokes have got going on here.
You did a good one the other week. Where was it?
Which one was it? So we do them, and sometimes they put them on 6 months later, the one 2 weeks later.
I watched one you come up on Fox the other week, and it was pretty good. I can't remember which one. I always watch. Dad brings me, because you watching Steve? I was like, no.
No, they're good fun. They put them together really well. The boys have a laugh, and they always, sometimes you do stuff and you think, is that going to look bad? and then it comes up and they do it so well. They just do it really well.
So tell us a bit about, so are you still out in the beaches now? What's going on now? Where are you at now?
Yeah, still live in Manly. Been there pretty much my whole life other than when I went overseas for 5 years. Local junior, born in Manly Hospital, like I said, and just loved, we did other sports. I played a little bit of, used to play baseball in the summer. In winter I played rugby league, and that was, these days that's a bit weird. I haven't been a kid that just plays 2 sports. I got a 12-year-old girl, 10-year-old boy, and they
garden netballer,
netball and touch and tag, and
that's hard. My wife messaged me today. She said, "What days Kieran do cricket training?" I said, "I don't know. Cricket hasn't started yet." She said, "We need to find out because they're about to start going back into they're going to do swimming, and then my daughter does netball, and then my little boy does swimming lessons." And I'm sort of going, fuck, how are we supposed to manage
jiu-jitsu? These ones are changed. Like it's all.
And they're all season, heaps of all season sports and stuff as well. Like I didn't do any sports as school. Mum was too busy. I just did school sports, and so I rode myself to swimming every.
You know what's crazy?
That was 2 sports there. Swimming.
That's crazy. You know what's crazy? But the amount of money to register a kid to play sport. I mean, the government does a good thing with this active kids voucher, but the amount of money. Like my kid's cricket rego is $220.
That's why that's where private school starts to actually start looking nice, and because it's all included.
It's all inclusive, yeah. Well,
all the extracurricular. No, we'll just they take them to swimming after.
We pay for it though. Is it? I'm not sure that's the cheap way of doing that.
It's a front payment.
He's the financial advisor. No, $30,000 a year.
But if you add it all up, if you add up swimming and all that stuff, and the time it takes after school carers, it actually comes out alright.
Bro, I mean. The Pond Soccer Club, great club, right? Out this way, $300 to register your kid to play. Now they get it's different to a normal club because they nearly give you home and away tracksuits. You get a home tracksuit, you get an away tracksuit, the whole lot. But for an average family, that's a good peg, like $300.
Yeah. You have a couple of kids, like you have 3 kids
that play soccer. That's $1,000. That's a weekly wage, man. It's fucking crazy what they're doing at the moment.
So tell us a bit about growing up. There's a fair bit of good history on your back in your day. You know the club you grew up with, and I think it was your grandfather was the first ever Manly player. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mackie Campbell. My grandfather played in Manly's first ever first grade side in 1947.
Tell us a bit about growing up as a kid. Sort of, what was it like for you? How did you get from there to where you ended up?
Well, we just lived in North Kirkle, which is a suburb next to Harbour, to Freshwater, and went to Kirkle, North Kirkle Public School. Just always played sport and surf club, and mum and dad never owned a house. They always sort of rented. I still drive past the house that we used to rent is on Pitt Road, and it was we had sort of literally, it was like a duplex stuck together, and we literally had 2 full backyards, and we pulled the fence down in between, and we had goal posts, and now there's like 3 properties on it. It would have been a beauty to buy, but that they just rented. Dad was a truck driver, mum was a school teacher. They separated when I was maybe 10, so that's, I used to see Dad on the weekends, but we moved to Harbour, the next suburb over, but we never had a lot of money. It was, but we didn't go without, you know what I mean? It's different these days. We didn't really go out to eat at restaurants and
the norm now was a luxury then, you know what I mean?
It's crazy. So I tell this story about my daughter. She was a couple of years ago, 10 at the time, and I said, we're at home. I said, what do you want for breakfast? 10-year-old girl, she goes, I would mind some smashed avocado, a drizzle of olive oil, and some cracked salt and pepper. I was just going, what am I creating here? We go to breakfast too much. Like, what the hell?
That's what you get for staying in the North Shore, mate. That's the North Shore now compared to then too. It's really upmarket now compared to what it was 20 years ago, But
it was. There was all these houses, and you pick them up for $30,000, and people they rented them. It wasn't it didn't have the hype or the aura, whatever you want to call it.
It has now.
So we just had a normal upbringing, nothing too out of the ordinary. But that was sort of my primary school years. Just went to the
$30,000.
Bro, my
I just paid $30,000 for a fucking jet ski.
Yeah.
How many bedrooms? How many bedrooms is a jet ski?
It's got speakers. It jumps out of the water on its own.
I ring him. I see the jet ski, right? So he's my client. I see the jet ski on Instagram. I ring him. He FaceTimes me and he's like, hey, I'm like, you're fucking
No,
kidding.
he ended my calls first. He ended my calls all day. He sent me a message saying, you're kidding. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm in trouble here.
He rings me and goes, but watch this.
Look at it, just turn the speaker up with the young Aussie hip hop artist playing that I know he likes, and he was like, oh, that's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. But the funny thing, my granddad, right, so he came over from Ireland, and they bought their first house so it's not the North Shore, but down in Maroubra, right? It was all housing commission stuff back then. No one wanted to live there on the water, like in Little Bay.
What were they thinking?
They sold it up and moved to Mount.
Were they thinking?
Where do they want to live?
Wait. They sold it and bought in Mount Druitt.
Yeah, what were they thinking?
Yeah, but that was because back then living near the water you didn't want the erosion and you didn't want the
views.
They didn't. No one wanted that.
You see now. You see on Spanion's story the other day. He was in a dude's housing commission house and he was showing the views. You see that? So Double Bay in that now. Like as you go to the Harbour Bridge on the left hand side there, that was an Aboriginal housing complex.
Well, there's still housing commission on looking over Manly Wharf there.
Okay. You could sign 100-year leases there. 100-year leases and pay $100 a week rent, and you could limit when they could up your rent, even with inflation.
Yeah.
So for 10 years, you could be paying $100 a week to look at the opera house.
Well, so
you pay $5,000 a night to stay in a hotel looking at the opera house.
In Manly, up the top, where the barracks are.
Yeah.
So Gemma's dad is 30-year soldier, right? He was in there, and they were posted to DY. They lived in DY for a bit of her childhood, and that would have been the premier posting. Now it's Brisbane. Everyone wants them to go to Brisbane in the army, but we went for a drive up there, and now there's like heritage listed houses and you look at them. These are the shitty houses the soldiers had to live in. They hated it next to the barracks. It's overlooking all of Manly. Like I drove the other day, and I was like, holy shit!
That's crazy,
it was a defence position, not a luxury housing position.
It's a big mindset swing, but I think for me, even personally, in the last 5 years, I've really started to appreciate what a water view can do for your soul. Like to be able to see and feel and smell and hear water, mate. It changes. People go, don't get me wrong, I'm from the West. I love being out West. I'm proud of where I'm from.
In the Nepean River.
Well, but tell me, like a Friday and Saturday night, you go into the city, or even like say into the Shire or something, you stay at Northies overlooking the water. That weekend's completely different to being at home. It's a getaway, you know.
It doesn't.
No one goes inland for a holiday.
I've got a couple of. Obviously, I was able to buy a unit and stuff when I was younger. We had some water views and. You take it for granted sometimes. The first 6 months you're going, how good this, and then after a while,
normal.
You stop looking because it's just part of what you look outside of your house, and people come over and go, oh my God, how good this, and you stop and think, Oh yeah, I need to. Sometimes you need to stop and smell the roses.
Can you get Thuyan to stop posting those brekkie photos over the water down to it? It makes me filthy. I'm sitting there looking to come.
She loves it. She loves it. My wife, Thuyan, she loves a food photo.
Yeah.
But it's always got the view of the balcony and the beach right there.
You go somewhere and you go, oh, how good's this? And I get my food. I'm going, good. Yeah, I'll be polite, wait for my wife to get hers. And she gets hers. You go to hook in. Whoa. I've got to take a photo.
You know what she's
taking
a photo of?
In and
the smashed avo.
The drizzle olive oil. That was my daughter. That's, yeah, I know. Crazy.
So, so you, obviously growing up like that, you would have learned a few things. What sort of, you're in the beaches, but like you said, you never all the money in the world and that kind of stuff. How did you make sure that because you played good footy from a young age on, you consistently play footy and you're dedicated, and I read a few stories about, some offers you made at young and, this kind of stuff. How did you maintain, or was there a switch with your mindset to make sure you could stay on a good path at this?
Look, I'm a bit of a nerdy kid. I was too scared of getting in trouble and stuff. So I wasn't, and I think it's a lot about your mates. I had pretty good mates. If you have mates, it doesn't matter what you think. Peer pressure can be tough. And if you have some mates that are leading you down a different path, that can be difficult. So I was pretty good to come through with some good lads. And, we always sort of had sport and something to keep us active, to keep us focused. I was never the best player as a kid. I was always a good player. But these days, kids grow up to be a professional footballer or something like that. When I came
10
through,
years old, eh?
When I came through, you look at the footy cards, it had what their job was. So even when I started 93, I got my first contract, played first grade. I was going to university full time. Jeff Tuvey was an accountant full time. Craig Hancock was a mechanic. Everyone had jobs. So you just played the sport because you loved it, but it's not going to be my career because rugby league players have another career, and these days it's. I
think they take that for granted these days, hey.
Well, these days
hard not to, bro. They don't know anything different, You get thrown a 19-year-old kid, like what was Ponga when he got signed on that big contract? Like, don't get me wrong, he's come through with shining colours. But that could have gone one or two ways. Hand a kid that type of money and they've never been given anything to work for before, mate. The drive can go, and I believe with me. The more you make, the harder it is to stay at that level. I think it's hard to have drive if you already made it. Yeah. For a kid, that doesn't
depends it depends what drives you. Like I've had a couple of amazing contracts, and my manager used to say to me, because I was stayed at Manly my whole career, and he'd come and say, right, you're up for a contract next year. Do you want to go or do you want to stay? And I'd say, no, I want to stay. He goes, right. But he'd go out there and say, I think he's going to leave. So he'd come back with a deal. I'd say, I want to stay for half of that. Are you serious? But the money's important until you get a little bit. Then I never played. I could have left, pretty much every year for more, or every contract for more money. But that didn't excite me. I didn't want to play for anyone that wasn't my team.
I don't think we.
And not everyone's like that. But
I don't think we hear about that enough. I think. It's hard. I mean, as a career, a sole career, it's really hard to put the light on someone and say, mate, you should have stayed loyal. To me, if I go get a full-time job and someone else, which is my competitor, offers me an extra $50K to do the same job or a different role as a career, you're silly not to at least look at it, right? Or go back to your club and say, hey, listen. And I think the thing with the older players and what you can take out of them is they did have jobs before and they did have loyalty to a club, whereas today you're getting people picked from Brisbane that might be a Brisbane supporter, but he's dragged to Melbourne because he's been selected at 17. So it becomes a career before a love for the team, I think. And I think it's hard not to treat it as a career.
I think that's where we lost. I think when they had jobs and stuff still, like they realised it wasn't a career, so they didn't treat it like one. But even now, and I'll probably get crucified for this, but I've talked to you about this, it's still not really a career unless you make it a career. Like the time frame of a good footy player, the length they can play, the amount of money they earn in that time, even if they're good, still is only equal to an average salary for the whole life. So it's more of an opportunity than a career. But they get in there at 19, they get these contracts, and they straight away think, I'll be here for 20 years, I'm sorted. But there's a good chance they're not going to be.
No, and the majority of good kids that play under 18s that are the best players, they might play one game of first grade. Like the average of career is like 26 games. He's one season.
I know a dude out of Wyong. His name's Mitch Williams. He's a hooker out of there, and he's played first grade. He played Newcastle comp. He played when the Roosters went and made them their feeder club, he was under Jake Friend at the Roosters, but he just cannot get a first grade game. He's made a career out of playing, Reggie. He's literally gone all right. He's captain coach there. He's on good coin. Great football player. But that bloke was one person away. Like, say Jake Friend is inside of the Roosters. He's on.
He gets an injury early and he jumps in.
It's the difference. And I feel like that's where it can be, to me, it becomes a little bit, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, that's a hard gig. That's a hard gig. But, like, if you're not number one, you're done.
It's your club, I suppose. It can be a hard gig, but it's what you do with what you get. And I think I've listened to a couple of things your other boys have said in previous podcasts, that you can be rich on 80 grand and poor on 200. I'm sure, Ryan, you've said that a heap of times. It's sometimes in rugby league, the more you earn, the more you just buy nicer stuff and spend nicer clothes, and
they don't get that mindset set.
That's right. So you don't come out of it like you've been earning 400 grand. People, it's weird.
People forget about tax too. They forget about tax, yeah? People forget about tax.
And manager fees.
So like, hey, JT gets $1 million a year. I'm thinking, fuck, and he's not saying all that,
So a good story of that. So we, Super League year in 95 came around and they said, look, to play in the comp that you played in last week, do you want like 100 grand or 200 grand or 50, whatever the number was, depending on whether you played for Australia or what it was. So guys would walk in, go, how good's this? I've just got an 80 grand check. So they take the 80 grand, boom, straight there, buy a car that's worth 40 grand when they drive out. Then the tax man comes and knocks and says, you owe me 40 grand.
Yeah.
Geez, what happened there? I've got no money. But,
same as the miners, people in the mine.
That's right. It's crazy.
So I think it's important, before we move on to the hindsight stuff, how did you, obviously probably you as a person plays a big thing, but what are some of the key things that helped you maintain that mindset? And because I truly believe as well, you watch it with some of the superstars, when it starts becoming about the money and stuff, I think it gets into their head and they're more likely to get injured or whatever because their mindset all shifts. You've got to be 100% on that field to stay healthy, to be good every week. And when you're a young and up-and-comer, I reckon you get injured often less, you see, because they've got good positive mindset. They've got they're trying to action stuff. When it gets to that made it pay, you see a lot of people getting injured because either complacency in training and everything. What do you think? What is your tips, or what do you think, looking back, was some of the key drivers to you maintaining that moving forward?
I just think the passion for the club that I played for and played because I loved Manly. So I was always, it wasn't about the money. I was always just wanted to play for the club, and I think if that drives you, then you always want to improve. And I think players that sometimes leave for money, their mindset, then they're not as happy playing for someone else. Then they're not going to get paid as much as they would have staying here for less. If you know what I mean, your next contract won't be as good because you're not as good a player when you're playing for someone that doesn't excite you, that doesn't drive you on the
contract
inside.
Mentality. We talk about that all the time.
Even for 2 years, someone signs a really good deal for 3 years. That's amazing. You've just made an extra 50 grand a year. But your next contract after that, are you going to play as well for those 3 years? Because you could be worth half that if you don't play well.
So how would because some players don't have the luxury of staying, right? Some players have to shop around. So what would you say would you take from, you were very, Manly was loyal to you, you were loyal to Manly, you were good enough to stay there. But what would you say, some of the young athletes who do have to shop around and stuff, what are some things they can do or think about that can keep their excitement, or, like you talk about the money long-term and stuff, and one of the things, I think you had good mentors as well, which was brilliant.
Not too bad.
What would you say to those young guys that may have to shop around, that for them to keep that excitement, if it is a new club because they have no other choice, what were some tips?
Well, I think there's just whatever draws you to a club, unless you're thrown to a club and that's your last hurrah, and then it's your internal drive that's going to get you there. Things to drive you at the club is, who are the exciting. I had a chance to go to the Roosters. So my excitement was I got to potentially play with Brad Fittler. That was a driver.
You're going to sign me up. I'm coming.
I do
free of charge.
Freddie, if you're watching, whatever you're doing, I'm there.
or whether you get to coach. When I went to France and played for the Catalan Dragons, Trent Robinson was our first ever coach. I learned so many things being coached. That was his first ever head coaching job. There's little drivers, and as a more experienced player, these young kids coming through, that drove me to train hard, to say, hang on. Yeah, I've still got it. So there's not an external reason I can give. It's whether I love the club or whether I had all these other little drivers, like I've just explained. It's, these kids coming through, I want to show them I still got it in pre-season.
I think when you put that together as a whole, it's like we can talk to you directly about the fact that you're a rugby league player, right? But if you interpret that into the business world or into just the job, the workforce, it's the same thing. Like ultimately, if you've got no drive, you're going to stay in the same sport or you're going to go backwards. I feel like regardless of whether you're an athlete or an entrepreneur or you're the best. Like I got taught this thing when I was younger, and it was if you don't own the shop, be the best one to be the best employee, because the best employee is nearly worth as much value to the owner of that place as owning it, in the first place. And I think we chatted about this thing with my kids when we go through Macca's. I've spoken to it with a few people. We try and tell our kids when we go through McDonald's. We play this game whether we think that person will become a millionaire or not, and it's based off of the way they respond to us and they react and they treat us at the McDonald's drive-thru.
I like it.
I just think
I'd be too judgmental. Nah,
you're not going to be a millionaire.
I'd tell them.
Nah, so we try and have that chat with our kids because and my little sister, I've got a little sister. She's 14 or 15, and she's just got her first job, and I want them to understand you can be the best. You could be at McDonald's if you're the best employee there. You're worth value.
Yeah.
And then if you're an entrepreneur, and you work hard, you're driven, you work value for it, you're an athlete, you've got to create value around yourself. And if you go there and go, well, you know what, I did play, Australia under 18s, or I did play for New South Wales under 18s, it means nothing anymore, because until you can continue to create value around yourself potentially as a brand, you go backwards. I think that's massive. Like so many people that are going well in life, or that people that we chat to, Ryan, for instance, when you speak to Ryan, you could, to a lot of people, he's successful, he's going well, he's got his own business, he's married, and like all these things are going well for him in his life. But you ask him, and he's just got these drive to go elsewhere and do other things, and that's to me is the most important part.
And I think it's how do I improve next week? How do I become better? And I think one big thing of a rugby league player, we're very good at taking criticism. So every week we get judged on, like it's pretty brutal. We either win, we lose. Your tackles are judged, your runs are judged.
You could do one bad thing.
But so every week, they tell you how you can get better. So when I first started doing mortgage broking, like literally, I'd write an email and I'd say to the guy next to me, have a read of this. How can I improve on this? They go, no, that's fine. No, tell me something. I want to improve, because if you just keep saying that's good, that's good. I know I'm not the best. I need to improve. So I think that's something that whatever I do, whether it's mortgage broking or rugby league or I've just started playing touch footy, and touch footy I can catch and pass, but the way they run their structures.
Steve's trying to run that outside line.
Turn on a dime, mate. Steve's running the courage line at the bloke's weak shoulder, trying to
get that outside sweep with the big left hand out.
No, but the structures and things that they do, I don't fully understand. So every time we'll do something, every time we score a try or don't score a try or let in try, I'd say, did I do it wrong? How was I, tell me how I can get better? And they go, no. I said, no, I need to know.
Tell me,
Yeah, did I hit that line, or was I in the wrong spot?
I think that's a big change.
How do I do it? Tell me more.
This is a consistent trait across our best in any industry. I touch footy as well. I used to play at the Penrith comp, and same thing. All the best local rugby league players come, and they think that they just didn't listen.
Oh, it's so different, bro.
But forgetting about that,
it's a fucking different sport.
But transferring over, I think being out you. Realising that you can always learn, and you're trying to learn, I think it's brilliant. And I think that translates back into one of the big drivers for a lot of if we're talking business and athletes, is that these days money is a driver. We're so flashy, and they think money's my drive. How do I make more money? Whereas what you're saying that you've carried over into mortgage broking, which I've seen, is how do I get better at what I do, knowing that if I do that, the money will come.
Well, how do I become successful? Yeah.
How do I get better at the small things each day? That because you know that if you do that, that's going to bring the money. Where everyone's going, how can I make more money? It's this short term thing, and I think that's a really good lesson. That the sooner you learn how to actually get better at what you do and add value, you'll know that will bring.
And it's a lot in when young kids are coming through, say, I want the big contract. So no, bide your time. You'll get paid more at the end of your contract when you're probably not worth that on the field. You'll still get your $600,000 or whatever, but on field performance is probably only worth $300.
Yeah.
But the value the experience, the value that you have off the field.
Well, look at Sonny
training these young kids.
Look at Sonny just coming to the Roosters now. People go, oh, he's only done 13 minutes and he's done, mate. What that bloke would do around 16 other blokes. They beat them the other night with 16 players then. Because everyone's bagging Sonny saying he fucking did nothing. Well, that means we just beat Canberra. Well, the Roosters, I can't say we. The Roosters just beat Canberra.
How many kilos you have?
Yeah, no. I had one against Sean Kenny-Dow once. I won. No, but you get what I mean? So, like, I think that for me is massive too. Just increasing value. Having Ryan around weekly, I've just broken a deal. I've got some dudes around me now that 3 or 4 years ago, with the mindset I was in, there's no way I could walk in a room, and just being able to sit here and chat with you. So for me, to be able to be around people like that is it's just massive for another person. So for a kid coming up, to be able to play in the same football side, for instance, say like you look at the Panthers, how young they are now, right? If someone come to Nathan Cleary and said, "Hey mate, do you want to go for a year?" Like say Joey Johns was still playing, "Do you want to go for a year and just play next to Joey Johns?" Tell me that's not going to do better for his career than $300,000.
Yeah.
Overall,
for sure. Like as you're a kid, and I'm sure everyone's done it in different teams or different careers, and you come in and when you're a young kid, whatever group it is, you look at the older kids, or I come in as a rookie in rugby league, and you go, you're looking at Jeff Tuvey and Cliff Lyons, and you look at them, and you don't ask, what are we doing? You just, whatever they do, I do. That's teach me how to do it. So the value that experienced players can have on younger kids at your club, why do we play? Who do we play for? What does this mean?
What's the culture?
The culture is more valuable, and that's, I always say that your top players, I can't pay them more than $700,000 for what they do in that white rectangle. That's 700 tops. You can't physically do anything more to add value on that field. But I'll pay you 1.2 because of what you do off the field with the kids, with the culture, with the sponsors. Now you're worth 1.2.
That's a fucking good analogy.
That is because you can't physically do 1/10 of a salary cap worth. You can't do that. You can't do it. So it's just a good way of looking at. And is this person worth it? What can he...
And what they do on the field, this is what players, I think you understood, and I've noticed this with you, it's so good, is what you do on the field is a small part to that club's success overall. Because you're only going to be there for a few years. If you've got to build the culture, the more fans they have, everything that builds players, they can build education programs for the next lot and everything.
If you've got one player, though, on the field, right, and don't get me wrong, there's players that change a game. I get that. But if you've got one player on the field worth 1/10 of the salary, right, there's no way that bloke, by passing and kicking a football, is worth that money. But to change the culture, you're like, take the 500.
Players forget that the club is a business, and you understood this really well. Like the club isn't going to look at you, and they might go, "Cool, for the next 5-10 years, you can help us heaps." But they're also going, "But we're here for 30, 50, 100 years. We need to also think about that." But the players, I think, forget that. So they think, I'm worth all this now because I'm doing it. But the club,
in the little bubble.
Yeah, the club is a business.
Like this.
The club is a business, and they're trying to operate as a business. But players get so self-centered sometimes. But it's the best, yourself, Cameron Smith. Like they think they're club players. And
what about them saying Cameron Smith at the moment? He's selfish if he doesn't retire.
Nah, he's playing some great footy.
How the fuck?
He's playing some great footy.
Even, mate, you know what? Even if he wasn't playing great footy, bloke's done enough in his life that if he wants to play one more year, he plays one more year.
If someone offers you a contract, it's your choice.
Like you're unselfish because one of the you know what, the younger, it's like taking a champion off a UFC fighter.
I'd be scared. I'd be scared if he leaves on the whole team falls apart. Like just his mental. Captain coach on the.
Can't see him leaving. I'd see him like playing one more year and then Bellamy going, "See you later," and Cameron Smith walking straight into the coaching role or something like that. The only player in the world to ever be able to do it.
Captain coach maybe next year.
I read this article and I don't know if it was Buzz Ross. And it was this article and it was literally saying, is he being selfish? And I'm like, the bloke could still play for Queensland with the 9 on his back and the captain if he chose. Yeah. How is he being selfish?
And then you go to England and make triple for a couple more years.
Yeah, that's right. The pound's no good these days.
The
pound's dropped. No one's going to.
3-1 back in the day was good, but
3-1 was it?
Well, years ago. No, it's
3-1.
1.5. What's the comp like in your eyes now over there compared to here? Like there's good players coming out of there here and making a big impact.
So, I think their best players are as good as our players. Like plenty of English guys come over and you go, wow, they're world class. They just this little pocket, Yorkshire, Lancashire, and Hull. They play rugby league. That's it. So there's the pool you've got to choose from. Like they're hardcore in those areas, but the pool is so small. Whereas they're playing soccer, rugby union,
at that
over the whole. Like it's like anything, right? You got America, you got a couple of 100 million people. Your top 1% are going to be better than someone with
Yeah,
You know,
if
10 million
America
people,
wants to
like,
turn
you're
it
gonna
on,
have that.
they will.
That's right. Well, they're big in rugby union.
Yeah.
It's all through all through colleges over there. They're very good at
starting to become a big
so
thing.
they're very good at sevens.
Yeah.
Because
the science, they get the science in and everything as well.
But athletically,
technique.
athletically, if you picked 7 running backs out of and just said go play sevens, and just athletically, bro.
Yeah.
Like you took our best player in whatever year he was and went over there, and athletically he couldn't match. He was the best athlete here, Jared Haynes, and he couldn't match it athletically.
He was doing okay. I reckon he was doing okay.
I think he was doing all right too, but there was just a difference. It's like, you know, the English Super League into the Aussies. There was just that little pocket there. I don't think he did bad at all.
I think the thing was that the little, from my take, is the subtleties. So if you've just the subtleties of we're trying to run. There's 8 people in front of me. I've got to navigate between those 8 people. Not, I've got 8 people in front of me, all different directions, but I've got 8 of my guys bumping them out of the way. I think there's little subtleties that these kids have been playing since they're 10 years old that you can't pick up in 12 months. Athletically, you can run in his moments. Like
when you had a look at him, he was really good.
You're going, how good's that? But it's these little. So years ago, another example is we had a couple of guys that. Americans came over to amazing sprinters to try and play. Was it like 95 or something? Like give them the ball.
Did he go to Newcastle?
No. Oh, they come over and they didn't quite make the NFL, and they come over. They were still young, running with the ball like ridiculous. And then we said pass it, and they're going, and they couldn't just do a simple pass.
Do that, yeah.
So you wouldn't. They wouldn't have made it. Would have taken them years. Athletically better than us, but that doesn't relate to. The subtleties of knowing the game of, hey, the winger's coming, you know, this winger's up flat. It could be a cross, like just little things that I could pick and read 10 minutes before they even noticed it. You know what I mean? Because of you've played the game for so long. So I think that's the hardest thing for any league guy trying to make it in the NFL.
Yeah, okay. I didn't even really think too much. Like when I watched, I bought a jersey. I was like, I was never a Para fan. I was like, man, he's gonna make it. I was like riding him, and I got a few of the boys I grew up with that are mates with him. You know, like Van Gogh, like our barber, he's pretty good mates with Haynes in that, and they were like, all the boys were getting jerseys. I was like, fuck, he's gonna make it. But you're just watching, and some of those athletes over there.
Oh, they're weapons. But it would have taken him 2 seasons to
get it.
Learn the plays, the little subtleties, what this guy doing with his feet before I.
And it's some of the stuff you learn as a kid, like some of the stuff you get when you brain, you know.
You don't even realise you're learning.
Second nature, and you like.
It's because you played for.
Well, with muscle memory, you just watched it for so long.
Like subconsciously, you see someone do something in the corner of your eye, and your body goes, "Well, I've got to do this," and you don't even think about it.
That's right, because you've been playing since you were 7, and now you're 17. You've been playing for 10 years.
Yeah.
You can read stuff that you don't even. Until someone asks you, like until I retired, someone said, how did you tackle? And I thought, I just tackled. And then literally they said, come and teach us. And I had to write down, well, I do this and I do. It sounds silly.
But imagine trying to write that and they're going, how did you tackle? Well, which foot did he step off? You know what I mean? Was I chasing him? Was he coming front on? Like
look, it's.
You know, that's in your head now. It's a 1-step process. But a breakdown step is a 10,000 step. Like one tackle has 10,000 different variables.
Well, there's just little things you do and you see and you don't realise. But when you stop and think, you go, well, that's why I did that, and you can.